Before we begin, listen closely. This isn't just a love story. This is a story about stolen lives, accidental fate, powerful enemies, and a girl who stepped into the wrong car and unknowingly uncovered a crime buried for 2 decades. If you love emotional, cinematic stories about love, truth, and family secrets, make sure you subscribe to Love and Loyalties, because stories like this only get deeper, darker, and more unforgettable from here. Now let's begin. 6 months after her life split cleanly down the middle, Ava stood in front of her bathroom mirror practicing a graduation speech she no longer cared about. The words were perfect. She'd rewritten them 100 times. But every time she reached the part about gratitude, her throat locked like something invisible was squeezing it shut. Tomorrow, 2 families would be sitting in that audience. 2 mothers. 2 fathers. 2 versions of her past. Both believed they had the right to cry when her name was called. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A text from Marlene, front row seat secured for the entire Carter family. "Everyone's coming. We're so proud of you." Ava smiled for half a second, then another vibration. A message from Elaine: "Which side should we sit on so it isn't awkward?" That smile collapsed. She tossed the phone onto the bed and buried her face in a pillow, screaming into fabric, because how was she supposed to celebrate the biggest achievement of her life when her existence itself was a legal and emotional disaster? What Ava didn't know was that while she spiraled over seating charts, a man in a glass-walled office across the city was watching security footage that would change everything. Chairman Han sat motionless as the video played. Rain, a curb, a young woman running, a black sedan slowing. Ava opening the door and climbing into the back seat by mistake. His investigator paused the footage. "This proves the engagement began as an accident," the man said carefully. "Not a setup. Not manipulation." He slid a folder across the desk. "Your son has been lying to you for 6 months. And the girl, she's not from an acceptable family." Chairman Han's face hardened into something unreadable. The entire relationship had started because she got into the wrong car. He picked up his phone. One call could end everything. Graduation morning felt less like a celebration and more like a battlefield. Ava woke before her alarm, heart racing, already exhausted. She and Daniel had agreed he wouldn't stay over. It was too strange, too complicated, with both families arriving. She was adjusting her cap when a knock echoed through the apartment. When she opened the door, Marlene stood there holding a small velvet box. Behind her, near the elevator, Elaine and Robert waited stiffly, like guests, unsure if they were welcome. Marlene opened the box to reveal a thin gold necklace with a tiny pendant. "This was my mother's," she said, voice trembling. "She passed believing she'd never see you again. She wanted you to have it." Ava's eyes burned. As Marlene fastened the necklace, Elaine stepped forward, hands shaking, holding her own box. "I know I don't deserve to give you anything," she said quietly, "but I added a charm." Inside was the bracelet Ava had once left behind. A new charm hung from it now. A graduation cap with the year engraved. "I added it 3 months ago." Elaine whispered. "Even if you never forgive us, I'm proud of you." The elevator dinged. Robert stepped out holding legal papers. "We got the court date," he said hoarsely. 2 weeks. Illegal adoption. Fraud. Kidnapping conspiracy. We're pleading guilty. We just wanted you to know before today." Ava stood frozen in her gown, wearing a necklace from the family that lost her and a bracelet from the family that took her. This was her life now. Loving people who hurt each other. Marlene reached out and touched Elaine's arm for the first time. "Thank you for raising her well," she said, each word forced out. "I hate what you did. But she turned out good. That's because of you." They rode together in silence. Ava sat in the back, feeling like a rope being pulled apart. Her phone buzzed. "Daniel, I'm here," saved seats. Dad couldn't make it. Relief washed over her, until the parking lot came into view. Families, cameras, signs. And then she saw them. People she didn't recognize holding printed signs with her name. "Welcome home, Ava." Marlene winced. I may have invited everyone. Ava barely had time to process before an elderly woman rushed forward, grabbing her face and sobbing. My baby, my granddaughter. Introductions blurred. Aunts, uncles, cousins, strangers who loved her already. Across the lot, Elaine and Robert stood alone. That was when Mrs. Chen appeared, clapping her hands like a general. Birth family on the left. Adoptive family on the right. Today is about Ava. People listened. Then a sleek black car pulled up. Daniel went pale. Chairman Han stepped out in a full suit. I thought you said he wasn't coming. Ava whispered. He never lies about that. Daniel said. Something's wrong. Chairman Han approached. I know about the car, he said calmly. The rain. The mistake. The lie. Ava felt sick. This engagement is built on chaos. He continued. And chaos is not a foundation for marriage. Mrs. Chen stepped forward, voice sharp as steel. You do not get to insult her family today. She spoke of the night Ava vanished. Of holding Marlene while she screamed. Of watching Daniel become a better man. Go inside, baby, she told Ava. Let us handle this. Ava ran. When her name was called, both sides of the auditorium erupted. Two mothers clapped. One powerful man clapped slowly. And for the first time, Ava felt something like peace. After the ceremony, the celebration moved to a restaurant. That's when the truth began bleeding through the cracks. Whispers about the kidnapping. About a company destroyed. About her birth father's death not being an accident. Her grandfather raised a glass and spoke of 20 years of searching. Elaine and Robert confessed they'd been lied to. Marlene admitted she'd spent 2 decades waiting. Then Chairman Han stood. I came to end this engagement, he said, but I see now that strength doesn't come from control. Ava stood too. I didn't fall in love with his money, she said. I fell in love with who he is when no one's watching. Applause filled the room. But the night wasn't done. A woman appeared. I arranged the kidnapping, she confessed. The room went silent. Names were spoken. Evidence revealed. Corporate corruption exposed. Ava realized her entire life had been shaped by greed. And the wrong car had led her straight to the truth. This was only the beginning. The confession didn't land like a bomb. It landed like silence. Every sound in the restaurant evaporated. Forks midair, conversations frozen, music fading into nothing. Even the staff stopped moving, as if the room itself was holding its breath. The woman stood there trembling, her hands clenched so tightly her knuckles were white. Her name was Catherine Chen, and the moment she said she had arranged the kidnapping, Ava felt something inside her finally snap into place. Not relief, not closure, but a sharp, brutal clarity. This was it. This was the face behind 20 years of questions. I didn't know what I was really doing. Catherine continued, voice breaking. They told me it was pressure. Corporate pressure. They told me no one would be hurt. Marlene looked like she might collapse. Daniel was already gripping Ava's hand, his thumb brushing her knuckles in slow, grounding motions. Elaine had gone completely pale, her lips trembling as if she were trying not to scream. Chairman Han didn't speak. He was watching Catherine with the same focus he used when dismantling rival corporations. Who paid you? He asked finally. Catherine swallowed. Vertex Acquisitions. That name rippled through the room like a shockwave. Ava had heard it before. Whispered by relatives. Buried in half-finished conversations. A company that had collapsed right after her birth father walked away from a deal. A company connected to everything that went wrong. They wanted information, Catherine said. Your father was close to exposing something big. They thought taking you would force him to cooperate. And when he didn't? Ava asked quietly. Catherine couldn't meet her eyes. They made his death look like a suicide. That was when Ava felt it. Not sadness, not anger. But a cold, focused rage she had never known before. Her entire life hadn't been an accident. It had been engineered. Lawyers were called. Phones were pulled out. Chairman Han stepped fully into command mode, his voice cutting through the chaos, assigning tasks, contacting investigators, securing protection. Everyone stays here, he ordered calmly. No one leaves alone. For the first time, Ava saw him not as Daniel's intimidating father, but as something else entirely. A man who knew how to hunt monsters. That night didn't end with cake or laughter. It ended with police statements, evidence transfers, and Ava sitting in the back of Daniel's car, staring out the window as the city blurred past. Realizing she could never go back to who she was before today. Sleep didn't come. When it did, it brought dreams filled with hospital hallways, fluorescent lights, and a woman in a nurse's uniform watching from the shadows. The days that followed moved fast and slow at the same time. News broke quietly at first, then exploded. Year. Old kidnapping linked to corporate crime. Tech executives implicated in child abduction scheme. Reporters camped outside Marlene's house. Ava's phone never stopped ringing. Her graduation photo was suddenly everywhere. She hadn't asked for this attention. But she refused to hide. Ava gave her statement with her spine straight and her voice steady. She spoke about the adoption, about love built on lies, about finding the truth and choosing not to look away. Elaine and Robert cooperated fully. Their charges were reduced, their guilt still heavy but no longer painted as villains. Vertex executives were arrested one by one. And then the police reopened her father's case. That was the moment Ava finally broke. They called her into a quiet office. A detective slid a thin envelope across the table. "He left this," the man said gently. "We believe it was meant for you." The letter was handwritten. "To my daughter, Ava." Her hands shook as she read it. Her father wrote about fear. About knowing he was being watched. About refusing to trade his integrity for his child's safety. Not because he didn't love her, but because he believed giving in would destroy far more lives. "If you're reading this," he wrote, "I'm sorry I couldn't protect you the way you deserved. But know this. Every day I lived was spent trying to bring you home." Ava cried harder than she ever had before. Daniel held her through it, silent, steady, exactly where she needed him. That night, sitting on the floor of his apartment, surrounded by takeout boxes and legal documents, Daniel looked at her and said softly, "Marry me. Not because of my father. Not because of an accident. Because I love you." She laughed through tears. "Your timing is terrible." "I know," he said. "So that's a yes." "It's a yes," she whispered. The trial was brutal. Executives denied everything until documents surfaced. Emails, bank transfers, testimonies. Catherine took the stand and told the truth, knowing it would cost her freedom. Mrs. Chen revealed what she'd seen in the hospital. Ava read her father's letter aloud in court. The courtroom was silent when she finished. The verdict was swift. Prison sentences, corporate dismantling, public outrage. Vertex acquisitions became a cautionary tale taught in ethics courses. And Ava became a symbol. She turned the attention into something useful. She founded a design firm focused on ethical business. Chairman Han funded a foundation in her father's name to help families affected by kidnapping and corruption. Life didn't suddenly become easy, but it became honest. The wedding planning was chaos. 2 mothers, 2 cultures, 1 exhausted bride. Chen coordinated everything like a battlefield general. Korean traditions blended with garden vows. Both mothers walked Ava down the aisle. Chairman Han gave a toast admitting he had been wrong. "I mistook chaos for weakness," he said, "but survival creates strength." Ava cried through most of it. Years passed. Healing wasn't linear, but it happened. Marlene and Elaine never became friends. But they learned how to stand in the same room without pain. Ava's firm went international. The foundation reunited families. Laws changed. One afternoon, Ava stood in a community center named after her father, watching families reunite. Children running, laughter filling a space once built from tragedy. Daniel wrapped an arm around her. "Best wrong turn of my life," he murmured. She smiled. And then she felt it, that quiet, grounded certainty. She was home. 5 years after the rainstorm, the wrong car, and the truth that shattered everything. Iva stood barefoot in her kitchen at dawn, rocking a baby who refused to sleep. The house was quiet in that fragile way that only exists before the world wakes up. Outside, the sky was still pale blue, hovering between night and morning. Ava pressed her lips to her daughter's soft hair and whispered nonsense just to hear her own voice steady. "You're safe," she murmured. "You're loved. All of you." Daniel appeared in the doorway, eyes half closed, hair a mess, holding 2 mugs of coffee like offerings. He leaned against the frame and watched them with the kind of smile that only comes from surviving something terrible together. "She finally asleep?" he asked. Ava nodded, easing the baby into his arms. "Barely. She fights sleep like it personally offended her." Daniel laughed softly and kissed Ava's forehead. "Strong already." They named her Diana, after the grandmothers, after the women who lost and loved and endured. When Diana was born, both mothers were in the delivery room. It wasn't easy, it wasn't comfortable, but it was honest. Marlene cried first, Elaine cried harder, Mrs. Chen cried the loudest and yelled instructions at everyone like she was running a military operation. And Ava watched them all and understood something she hadn't before. Family wasn't clean. It wasn't symmetrical. It was built from stubborn love and imperfect choices and the refusal to walk away. The foundation grew faster than anyone expected. Families came from everywhere, some with hope, some with fear, some with nothing but questions. Ava sat across from parents who hadn't seen their children in decades. She listened to adoptees who felt their identities splintering. She never pretended it was easy. But she told them the truth. "You don't get closure," she would say gently. "You get truth, and then you decide what to build with it." Her design firm thrived alongside it, hiring survivors, creating spaces meant for healing instead of profit. Daniel restructured his family's company from the inside out, transparency replacing silence, ethics replacing fear. Chairman Han retired quietly. He spent his days spoiling his granddaughter, teaching her Korean words, and telling Ava stories about Daniel as a child. The soft ones, the ones no one else knew. "I was wrong about you," he admitted once, watching Ava chase Diana across the lawn. "Chaos didn't follow you. Truth did." Ava smiled. Truth usually looks messy at first. Catherine served her sentence. When she was released, Mrs. Chen was waiting. They didn't hug at first. They didn't need to. They rebuilt slowly, carefully, the way you rebuild after an earthquake. Elaine and Robert became advocates for adoption reform. They spoke openly about guilt, about responsibility, about love that doesn't erase harm but still matters. Marlene wrote a book about the 20-year search. It became a bestseller. Ava helped her edit the final chapter, the part about finding peace without forgetting pain. Every year, on the anniversary of the rainstorm, they held a family gathering. Everyone came. The cousins who once felt like strangers. The women who once couldn't stand in the same room. The man who once tried to end it all with a phone call. Someone always raised a glass. To wrong turns, they'd say. To truth. To getting into the wrong car. One evening, years later, Ava sat at her desk sketching the final plans for a new community center. Diana, now 3, colored beside her with absolute commitment. "Mummy," Diana asked suddenly, "why do I have so many grandmas?" Ava paused, considering. "Because we're lucky," she said finally. "Because love doesn't fit into neat boxes. And sometimes people find each other late, but they still choose to stay." Diana nodded, satisfied, and went back to coloring. Daniel watched from the doorway, smiling. "You ever think about how none of this would have happened if your Uber hadn't cancelled?" Ava laughed. "All the time." She leaned back, looking around at the life she built. "The chaos, the peace, the truth. Sometimes," she said softly, "the worst day of your life is just the beginning of the right one." Daniel crossed the room and wrapped his arms around her. Outside, the rain started again. Gentle this time, and Ava didn't flinch. "Before we end this story, I want to hear from you. What moment hit you the hardest? Do you believe forgiveness is possible without forgetting? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if stories like this, raw, emotional, cinematic, are why you're here, make sure you subscribe to Love and Loyalties. There are more stories coming that will stay with you long after the screen goes dark. Because sometimes, getting into the wrong car doesn't ruin your life. Sometimes it finally shows you the truth.